Well, hello and howdy. Welcome again to the Front Range Hockey Podcast. My name is CC Hockley.
I'm Scott McDonald. Happy to be back here with another episode of Front Range Hockey Podcast. Was this episode 2?
The episode numero dos.
We're rolling. We got a lot of hockey to talk about.
Yes, we do. My goodness, we got a couple of Avs games. We've got a lot of Colorado Eagles news. Not so much collegiate news because not a lot has changed, and unfortunately, the three teams we're covering are kind of
still pretty bad.
Yeah, not good, Bob, as they say. But yeah, I mean, here we are. We're going to talk some hockey, nevertheless, and we're going to ask the feed as we normally do. Got a lot of good questions today from the social medias, as it were. And so, yeah, we're stoked. We're excited. Let's jump right in and let's get started with the Colorado Avalanche. So first and foremost, let's talk about the last couple games that they've played since we last had our episode recording, which was episode numero uno. Apparently I'm on a Spanish kick tonight, but but yeah, this is episode 2, January 22nd, 2021. We are recording it the night before. So Scott is actually going to be covering the second of 2 Avalanche games against the LA Kings. We'll talk about the first one here.
Big game today too. One Bowen Byram is making his NHL debut. So I think the entire state of Colorado and the Avalanche fan base at large they've been waiting for this moment for 2 years now, and I think we're all ready to see what happens.
Oh yeah, and we'll talk about what propagated that here very, very shortly, because that was definitely a breaking development. A lot of stuff happened this week. I feel like between the Eagles and the Avs, it's just like boom, like just so much news.
Yeah, which is good. It's good for us. We got plenty to talk about, and there's no dead space. So hopefully we'll keep you guys entertained for the whole way through.
There you go. So, again, let's get started. The St. Louis Blues, they defeated the Avalanche. We talked about that last game, 4-1, or last episode, rather, the first game of the season. Blues beat the Avs 4-1. Second game, the Avs come back and holy yeah, how long can I drag that out? Like the one dude on the wire.
For 8 counts. Probably.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. 8-0. Big old snowman for the Avalanche against the St. Louis Blues. I mean, you had Nathan MacKinnon with a 3-point night, 1 goal, 2 assists. Cale Makar with 3 helpers as well. The only 2 guys with a 3-point night. I say only. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. But when you put up 8 goals on both Jordan Binnington and Ville Husso, it's it was a very not bad at all. Very impressive effort from the Avalanche. Gabriel Landeskog had 2 goals, putting him to the 200 NHL goals mark. Kind of a big milestone there. I believe Nathan MacKinnon also got 500 points.
He did
as well. Yeah.
No, it was the last game against the Kings. Yeah,
against the Kings. It's all blending together for me. So
actually, so I just realized. I think, who was I? I think Mikko Rantanen got his 100th goal. Maybe
that sounds right.
I forgot which game it was. So I didn't realize all 3 of them, the top line, all hit some milestones the last couple of games here. 100 goals for Mikko, 200 for Gabe, and then 500 points for Nathan MacKinnon, who is only 25 years old. You got to remind yourself of that, and that is pretty damn incredible. I mean, he's only the 7th guy in franchise history, or he's number 7 in franchise history. Some crazy. I don't know. He's good. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I think don't have to make a case about that one. You just look at his stat line, look at him, watch him play a single game. You could tell he's just a league above everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Every time he gets the puck, you kind of hold your breath because he's just got that breakaway speed, and he just, like I said last episode, I think it's McDavid-esque. It reminds me a lot of Connor McDavid and just how he can elevate his game to that level. But 8-0, it was amazing because, I mean, obviously to rebound like they did, but to really just I remember what I was going to say from earlier. We got sidetracked on the milestones and everything, but the fact that we discussed Coach Jared Bednar tinkering with that top line, and you weren't a big fan of it, but the proof is kind of in the pudding, I think.
Yeah, I mean they've been rolling with that line for a few years now, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it or whatever. But I was feeling good after that first game about Burakovsky. I mean, just talking to him, during training camp, just seeing videos of him, and just in that first game, obviously he scored that goal. The Avs lost or whatever, but I thought he looked fast, he looked quick on his feet, and he looked like he was kind of turning it up a notch. I know it was only one game in, so it's probably not fair to make that assumption and probably jump into conclusions there, but I thought he looked good. And I think what really spoke to me was how confident he said he was that, Coach Jared Bednar trusted him to be on that top line with the Nathan McKinnons and, with the Mikko Rantanens. And that's pretty unreal from his background playing third and fourth line minutes with the Washington Capitals. And he mentioned that, when we talked to him, he's like, I mean, I love playing here because I'm getting opportunities I wasn't getting in Washington.
Right.
And I was like, I mean, that can do a lot. Getting that confidence, having that confidence from your coach and playing on that top line with, some of the best players in the NHL, it does a lot for your confidence. So I was feeling good about him on that top line, but, proof is in the pudding, like you said. It's obviously working these past two games as they put them back together. And, Burakovsky's hurt anyway, so that's probably not helping his case. But, yeah, I mean, that trio, that top-line trio has been one of the best in the league for 3 or 4 years now, and maybe we should have never changed it in the first place. So we'll keep it where it's at for now.
Yeah, I mean, you add so many parts, and you – well, maybe not a whole ton of parts, but you add new parts. You want to mix things up a little bit and try out different lines. And like you said, Coach Bednar has been known for tinkering stuff in the past. And so, I mean – It didn't. I mean, like you said, he looked great in the first game. Obviously, he scored the only goal for the Avalanche, the opening goal for the Avalanche's season against the Blues at Ball Arena there. And you can't fault him for trying something new and trying to tinker with chemistry and everything. And obviously, it's kind of a bit of a trite thing to put your top 3 guys on the first line. Obviously, that's kind of an NHL. Like an EA Sports NHL move is just to put,
just stack the top line and
just stack that top line. And that's not always going to be beneficial for you because you've got chemistry, you've got different styles of players. Is he a power forward? Is he a sniper? Is he a playmaker? It's so many different factors play into that, but obviously for the Avalanche, it's what you need to do.
Yeah, it works.
And it worked in the second game as well. When they played the Kings, they traveled to California. They got up 3-0 after 2 periods. One of the weirdest sequences I think I've seen, at least in recent memory, because of course, we haven't seen hockey in so long aside from the summer playoffs that was going on, but they got up to 3-0. And then that third goal was a delayed penalty. I wanted to just touch on this real quick because it was so weird. It was a delayed penalty, but they scored the goal. And instead of the penalty negating and the person coming out of the box from the power play, because the Avs were on the power play at the time, it effectively ended the power play, but the delayed penalty was still valid and held up, and that guy still went to the box.
Yeah, I mean, what a slap in the face, right? For the Kings. I mean, it's like Jesus, like we just got buried for like a third goal, and then it's like, damn, we're on the PK again. But yeah, it's like, I mean, probably the first time I've ever seen that, but it makes sense because they were technically, it would have been a 5-on-3, but they scored before that first one ended, so it doesn't negate that second penalty. But I mean, it is what it is. But you love to see it if you're an Avs fan, but
sure,
the Kings, you just gotta you hated that sequence there.
Yeah, it was a little bit of confusion. I kind of, I didn't see Mikko celebrate right away when he scored the goal, but it was a curious thing. And I had to kind of look it up and see the, International Ice Hockey Federation rules also are that way. And so, yeah, it was really strange to see. I'm like, well, doesn't that negate the penalty? But no, dude got sent to the box. And like you said, the Kings were on the PK again. But speaking of the Kings, they did make it made it a game. They scored a couple goals and put the Avs back on their heels a little bit. And, yeah. Scott, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's one of my biggest complaints about this Avalanche team over the last couple of years is how, I mean, they're so good. They're a pedal to the metal kind of team. They're so fast, they're so quick and efficient, and sometimes they get off to those early leads. They'll be 3 or 4 goals up, and you can kind of just tell they take their foot off the gas a little bit. And I think that's probably my biggest complaint about that team. And that's, a little bit what I saw there. All it takes for, in the game of hockey, in the NHL especially, I mean, you could be up 4 or 5-0, but once that team gets that first goal or lands that big hit, then momentum shifts, and momentum's such a huge thing in hockey because it's such like a fast-paced game. Maybe you don't see that so often in baseball and football because it's a little bit slower, but just the way hockey operates is it's a nonstop thing. And once one team's putting their foot on the gas, then it's you kind of get put back on your heels a little bit, and that's kind of what happened. And yeah, they gave us a run for our money there in the third period. Almost blew it. I was worried. I thought they might have, but they survived.
Yes, they did. And when you can, get that lead early and make the other team claw their way back. I mean, you've seen it before, of course, in pretty much any sport, but ice hockey as well. You go up 2 goals, you go up 3 goals, and obviously if they chip away at that lead, then you kind of, have to get your ass in gear, and it gets your attention. You're like, okay, well, but again, they play the Kings tonight, and like you mentioned, Bowen Byram going to be making his debut. And I don't know, is this an indicator that, I mean, obviously with the trade that we'll be talking about here shortly, that, like I said, just kind of was the catalyst for Bowen Byram starting tonight, in my opinion. But in regards to the Western Hockey League and the Canadian Hockey League at large, I mean, is this kind of a bad harbinger for them? Like a bad mess, is the writing on the wall for the major juniors leagues that, they might not have a season this year?
I don't know. Yeah. Cause I mean, they said they're committed to at least like a 24 game season or whatever it was. And I haven't heard anything since. It's been a few weeks, and who knows? I mean, with regards to Bowen Byram, who would, if he didn't make the NHL team outright with the Avalanche, and making his debut tonight or yesterday, whenever you're listening to this, and we'll see how he does. But Bednar said today, like, he hopes that he's put in that awkward predicament where he has to make a lineup choice and possibly keep Byram in, and we'll see. If he doesn't, he's got those 5 or 6 games, and he'd go back to the WHL if they get going. And again, we haven't heard anything from the CHL or the WHL or any of those major junior leagues regarding that in some time now. So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen with the WHL, but
yeah, just kind of a question, just taken out of thin air there. Didn't really plan for that or anything, but just curious of what your take was and everything, Scott, in that regard. And it kind of leaves me scratching my head a little bit. Yeah, I mean, obviously, one player.
Everyone. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, one player isn't going to dictate the outcome of a whole league or a whole system, not having their season. I'm sure there's a lot of, I mean, we'll get to that. I keep foreshadowing here with the outline and everything, but, the Eagles signed, 4 players to amateur tryouts, and they're all CHL guys that the Avalanche picked in the draft, throughout the years. And so, obviously one player isn't going to be the linchpin that it makes or breaks a league having a season, but, I mean, obviously they're not going to get started anytime soon because of the fact that, well, Bowen Byram is going to be starting and making his NHL debut tonight. So I was just curious about that. Let's take on, like I said, the catalyst of the Bowen Byram. And we texted about this a little bit. Scott and I did. When this trade occurred, Ian Cole traded to the Minnesota Wild. You trade within the division. Doesn't happen often. It does happen, though. Obviously, the Avalanche trade with the Blackhawks to get Brandon Saad this offseason. But, Ian Cole traded to Minnesota for Greg Pateryn. And Pateryn, kind of that fringe NHL. Pateryn, sorry. It looks like Pateryn.
Yeah. It does. I get where you're coming from, yeah.
And I haven't heard his name in the media outlets or anything, but Pateryn, Greg Pateryn, forgive me. I wasn't standing pat on my pronunciations. So you're welcome. Yeah, I got dad jokes for days. You're welcome. So Greg Pateryn, like I said, he's kind of a fringe NHL, AHL guy. I mean, you look at his stats. He's played with Montreal, Dallas, and Minnesota in the NHL. But he also spent a few seasons with Hamilton earlier in his career, over in the AHL, and then the St. John's Ice Caps. Made a game, started a game for Iowa in 1920. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't really, get a whole lot of statistics. Definitely a kind of a fourth. Well, he is a fourth line guy from what I've seen and from what I've heard, and so obviously could be an AHL acquisition, to kind of bolster their defense in that regard, and like you said, it opens the door for Bowen Byram to get starting tonight. So.
Yeah, it does. And the interesting thing is Patterson's also starting today. So I think he's playing. So Byram is going to be the seventh defenseman. I keep saying tonight. I should probably say it doesn't matter. But so yeah, so Byram's playing on his debut. He'll be like the seventh D, and then I think Patterson is playing on that third line D with Graves, maybe, I don't know, or Timmins. One of those guys, but it'll be interesting to see like how he plays. And I've seen him a few times when he was with Dallas, and his brand is not scoring. That's not his thing. But I think it gives some balance to this Avalanche like defense that is just so their MO is all offensively driven. It's all fast paced, and you got the Byrams, the Cale Makars, the Ryan Graves, Sam Girards are all like electric, exciting, fun players to see. And you got the more like kind of boring guys like the Eric Johnsons and obviously Ian Cole's like gone, but I think Patterson kind of fills that hole that Ian Cole left when he got traded a few days ago. Mm-hmm. And I think you kind of need that balance. You need someone who's willing to punch people in the mouth and kind of stand in front of the goalie and knock people out of the way. I'm not saying the other guys I mentioned don't do that, but they don't do it maybe as well as a Patterson does. So it'll be interesting to see if he sticks with the team or not. I mean, worst comes to worst, like he could be, AHL acquisition. I think he'd be great with the Eagles. I think it'd be awesome to see him down there. He'd be a nice veteran presence. And I think, yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see how he plays. Maybe not as much as Byram, but maybe just as much at an analytical level. I want to see how he does tonight. And, this is his tryout too, just like it is for Byram, and he could stay for the season.
Yeah, and I mean, he, like you said, he is a veteran presence. So if he does get sent down to the AHL with the Eagles, and obviously when that season starts on February 5th, and again, a little foreshadowing, the Eagles announcing their season opener on February 5th and their opponent and everything. We'll get to that. But yeah, let me look at his contract here real quick. I mean, it looks like just a one-way deal. Yeah, it looks like a one-way deal, $2.25 million. Yeah, he might need to clear waivers if they do send him down to, it's hard to tell on Cap Friendly sometimes. Like, yeah, it's just kind of difficult to see, what if it's two-way, if it's one-way, unless it's like a signing announcement or anything like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would imagine like it probably is just a one-way NHL contract, but I don't really think the Avs or Sakic or anyone's like too concerned about him clearing waivers. If he doesn't, they have a wealth of defensemen, and
yes,
I mean this trade at the end of the day it was about clearing cap space.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think. I mean, even though they're retaining, they're like $800,000 of Ian Cole's contract. If you do the math, I think they're still saving almost $2 million by trading away Ian Cole and taking on Patterson's contract. So yeah, I think it was mostly kind of like we talked about a little bit earlier, but kind of clearing roster room and cap space room for a guy like Bowen Byram to step in and get his shot. And they said as much in the press conferences that's kind of exactly what it is. It's like it's time to let these like young guys step in, and that's what this trade is about.
Yeah, and there is something to be said about letting the veterans play and letting them get their ice time and everything. But when you have such a wealth of riches, especially on the blue line with how many defensemen you've got, either prospects down in Loveland or up in Loveland, rather, if we're talking geographically from Denver.
There you go.
but it's either up in Loveland, Cardinal direction north, or if you're talking about defensemen on the Avalanche themselves, like, yeah, why not? Why not give, Bowen Byram and of course Cale Makar, he's obviously going to be on the team as well, and Connor Timmins, It's like you got this youth movement that's coming up through the decor a little bit, and it's a great problem to have, a problem, quote unquote, to be able to trade an Ian Cole for Greg Patterson. And did I say no? Pattern. Okay, see,
Pattern.
I'm second.
You're right. Yeah, you were doing well. You nailed it.
but then I second guessed myself. And
you did. Never second guess yourself.
Never second guess yourself. Yeah. See, I went for it the first time, and now I'm gun shy. But
there you go.
Yeah. So Avs and the LA Kings. I believe the puck drops at 8 Mountain tonight.
8:00 Mountain Time. Yep.
There you go. So Scott will be tweeting. He included his Twitter handle right there in his, his name there. So I like that. Yeah. Off scot-free. That first O is actually a 0. So
I was hoping you could tell in the thing, but you really can't tell. It still looks like an L. But
it's all right.
I'll have to find that one that has the slash through it. So then you could definitely tell it's an O or a 0.
You'd have to copy and paste it from a specialty site or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just find the symbol in Microsoft Word, and it's there's this 0.
Download it or something. It's whatever.
Exactly.
That seems like too much work. If you guys want to follow me, you'll figure it out. You know what I mean?
Scott will have your Avalanche. He will have you covered, my friend. Go give him a follow. We already gave you the screen name. That first O is a 0. Off scot free. Go give him a follow. He'll get it taken care of tonight. And obviously, when you're watching this, it won't be tonight. So there's always that fun delay and.
Yeah,
but
you guys know what we mean, all right?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sorry I belabored the point, Scott. God,
no, you're fine.
No, I'm just kidding. All right. So we've talked about the Avalanche. Now let's venture up to Loveland, like we said, and talk about the Colorado Eagles. They did announce their season opener is going to be against the Stockton Heat on February 5th. And Patrick Williams at P Williams NHL on Twitter, always with the great AHL news. He said that the AHL schedules for the whole league are going to be released soon, or at least they were talking about it today. And I believe that the news going around now is that it's going to be released tomorrow. Does that sound?
Yeah, so actually right? I reached out to one of my sources too this morning, and he told me, if not today, Thursday, tomorrow. So yeah, I'm fully expecting it. Obviously they dropped a little teaser. We got the first game, at least for the Eagles, but I think Friday when this thing drops, I think it's going to come out at some point. Mm-hmm. I hope. We're all excited because training camp's supposed to start in I think they originally were shooting for the 25th of January to start training camp. So you kind of need a schedule, probably between now and then. So
right,
pretty safe bet that it'll happen tomorrow. Friday's a good day.
Friday's a good day. Fridays and Mondays tend to be good days for announcements, just beginning or end of the week, going into the weekend or coming out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So hopefully tomorrow we'll get some more news on the Eagles and the AHL at large in regards to the schedule and how many games each team is going to be able to play. God, you got to feel sorry for that Atlantic division with Bridgeport and Providence and Hartford, a 3-team division.
Yeah.
There can't be a whole lot of games played in that, but it's going to be, it's going to be alternating. It's going to be like Bridgeport plays Providence for 2 games in a weekend, and then they play Hartford, then they play Providence. They're not going to do a whole lot of in a row.
I mean, that could be exciting though. I think we talked about it a little bit on episode 1, but
that's right, we did.
It's gonna be playoff mentality. I think we might see some nasty hockey up there in that region of the U.S. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, and on the other podcast that I'm at, the Calder Farmstead, we actually haven't had an episode 1 yet for that, but we are gearing up to do team previews once the rosters are a little more solidified. We're going to do all 28 teams playing this year. We're going to, we are going to have our work cut out for us. So, yeah, if you're a fan of the AHL or you just want to listen in, obviously we'll be doing a Colorado Eagles episode, but we're going to bang that out. We're going to get that shit recorded, and we're not going to mess around. I think we're going to get a lot of it done this weekend. Wow. And hopefully 20 to 30 minutes per episode, and we'll go with God and we'll get her done. So
Godspeed, my friend.
Thank you, sir. That's going to be
you and Sean, right?
Yep. Me and Sean O'Brien.
Man. You guys got your work cut out for you.
Yes, we do. But here and now, we're still talking about the Eagles. So we'll take it one day at a time and one moment at a time. The Eagles announced on, let's see here, January 17th that they signed 4 prospects. I think this is becoming like you had Lehigh Valley sign a couple goaltenders and Ford, I believe. And now, you have clubs in the AHL that are starting to, what's the word I'm looking for here? They're starting to react.
I guess,
they're starting to react.
Purge their prospects and, places where they can. I guess park their prospects is probably a better or a better way to put it. Because, we don't know where a lot of these guys are going to go. A lot of them are CHL, QMJHL, players. And,
right.
They're not playing now. And you want your prospects playing all the time, getting as much experience as they can. So I think it's great that they're getting some AHL experience when they, shouldn't be, like, per the CHL NHL agreement. So, this is a great opportunity for those kids, and it's a great opportunity for the NHL. And, the CHL is getting absolutely screwed out of this. So that's unfortunate for them, but great for the brand and product at large, I think.
Yeah, I agree. You've got these kids that they want to play, they want to be able to skate, and to have the opportunity to do so, it's I think it is in the long run beneficial for the CHL because of the fact that, you are still developing players somewhat. Yes, they are going to be playing professionally. I don't know what these amateur tryouts are going to yield. You've got Trent Miner, the goaltender that played with the Vancouver Giants with Bowen Byram, since we've, been talking about Bo. Yep. But you've also got 3 forwards. The Avalanche called up, 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they called up 4 forwards to their initial taxi squad. And so the Eagles are like, well, okay, we need to maybe get some more forward signings. So, yep. They kind of had, well, obviously the Avalanche had the rights to these guys. The forwards, we're talking about Luca Burzan, Jean-Luc Foudy, and then Sasha Mutala. You had these 3 guys coming from both the WHL and the OHL. And yeah, you have the rights to these guys. And like we have said before, with the CHL kind of on delay, why not? Why not utilize these prospects that you've got the rights to?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And again, it's great for these kids, who wouldn't otherwise get this opportunity if it weren't for this strange world we're living in this past year. But it's awesome for the NHL teams as well to just, get those guys like upgraded, if you will, to a higher league at the age of 17, 18, 19, however old these kids are. And I think it's gonna be a great experience for them at the end of the day. And it's great for the Eagles as well. I know, fans can't necessarily watch, but if they do get, some AHL games, I know Eagles season ticket holders are getting free passes to AHL.TV. So that's cool. You get to see some Avs prospects that you probably wouldn't have access to otherwise when they're playing the WHL, because there's really no streaming services for that. So great opportunity for, obviously the players, I think the fans of the NHL teams and the Eagles and the AHL teams. And I think it's great.
Yeah. And, it really helps fill the quota as well. You see, like Sean and I were compiling rosters that we saw on Elite Prospects. EliteProspects.com has some of the best, maybe this isn't, an official endorsement, but they have some of the most up-to-date rosters that you can get in the hockey world, and pretty much any league they have covered. And so we go on Elite Prospects a few days ago, last weekend, and we're looking at these AHL rosters, and some of these teams do not even have any goaltenders currently. And you're left scratching your head like, well, what is their plan? Like, what is their game plan? What are they doing in lieu of having, their primary goaltender probably called up to the taxi squad is what I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. And so, the Eagles have remedied that with their prospect system in the Canadian Hockey League, in the WHL, in the OHL, and it's a good thing. And this segues really well into another thing that we're talking about with the Eagles, the goaltending tree for the Avalanche, the Eagles, the Grizzlies. There was kind of a lot of questions that we answered about that, or at least a lot of things that were kind of in flux. And of course they always are when it comes to goaltending, with Pavel Francouz, nursing an injury apparently, and Hunter Miska getting called up to back up Philip Grubauer. And so the Eagles, well, let me start with the Avalanche signing, actually. The Avalanche signed Penn State product Peyton Jones, who had initially signed an AHL contract. Peyton Jones was pulling a Hunter Miska from last season, signing the AHL deal, getting the NHL deal, except unlike Hunter Miska, Peyton Jones didn't have to wait through, over half the season to get that NHL deal inked.
Right.
Peyton Jones signs an NHL deal with the Avalanche, and he's going to be, as the Avalanche did not make any illusions, they're like, we are assigning him to the Eagles. Like they announced that in the press statement. We are assigning this guy to the Colorado Eagles. So have no illusions. Peyton Jones is going to play for the Eagles, which, it's what his goal is. It's what his coach, Guy Godowski, told me when I interviewed him in the offseason. It's like, this is a guy who's got AHL talent, and don't be surprised if he's an athletic dude. Don't be surprised if he stays in the AHL. And here he is after, starting the season with the Grizzlies and, kind of cascading down. The Utah Grizzlies, they signed a couple goaltenders. They brought back Kevin Carr from last season. They announced this on the 20th, yesterday, as we're recording. So January 20th, Wednesday, they brought Kevin Carr in, and then Evan Butenhouse.
Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know.
Wow. Come on, CC. Evan Butenhouse. Let's go with that. So, yeah, and Evan Butenhouse played with Worcester, the Worcester Railers. Unfortunately, they're not playing because the North Division isn't playing in the ECHL. So you've got Carr and Butenhouse playing for the Grizzlies now. And so, yeah, you've got Peyton Jones up with the Eagles, and you've also got Parker Gahagen, the Army product. Here I am wearing my Air Force hat. Let's talk about Army a little bit. So, yeah, Parker Gahagen. Look at this man's stat line from 1920. He played 6 games in the SPHL with Evansville, 15 games with Newfoundland, and then 2 games with Toronto in the AHL. He played in all 3 minor leagues in 1920. And
did pretty damn well.
Yeah, 10-4.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 and not so. I mean, less well at the AHL level, but obviously the gameplay is going to be a little different. Did get a win, but I mean that ECHL record 10-4-0, .939 save percentage, and a 1.81 goals against average. He played in 3 games, 4 games it looks like, with the Utah Grizzlies this season. He only allowed 8 goals in those 4 games, 1-1-1. .93 save percentage, 2.12 goals against average. He signed a deal with the Eagles today. They announced that as well. They announced Peyton Jones today on Thursday, the 21st, and they announced Parker Gahagen. And it's like, this is the world that we live in, to where you have to pivot and shift. And obviously that's what you have to do with minor league hockey, but it seems a lot more so with this pandemic hockey that we're playing.
Yeah, again, you're looking for some light in the darkness, with this brutal year that we've, been living in. But I mean, you can't help but just kind of like smile and feel good for these kids who wouldn't, otherwise. I mean, some of these aren't kids. I mean, Gahagen is 27 or something like that. Yeah, 27. So, a kid, he's older than me, but otherwise, on average, they're younger guys, and it's cool. They would never get these experiences. And last year he was playing in the SPHL, and now all of a sudden he's possibly competing for an AHL job because of the whole Miska situation, and it's cool. It's really cool for these guys, and at the end of the day they're getting paid too. So I mean that's always awesome. There's signings galore recently. Like a bunch of people are getting contracts and tryouts, and I mean it's good to see. And I feel good about these guys, and you're happy for them.
Yeah, absolutely. There is that human element to it as well. It's not just all X's and O's and dollar signs and
stats aside.
Stats aside. Exactly. Here I am, being all analytical. I'm spending too much time around Sean. Sean's my analytics guy for the Calder Farmstead and everything. So it's like, yeah, there is that human element to it. But yeah, like I said, I talked with with Peyton Jones's coach in the off season, and just how, studious he is about the game and everything like that. And in life in general. I mean, he finished all 4 years at Penn State because, like I mentioned before, it meant something to him. It was important to him to get his degree from Penn State University. So good for him getting an NHL deal. Good for Parker Gahagen getting an AHL deal after spending time in the SPHL in 1920. And yeah, the Avalanche are, they've shuffled their goaltenders, and the Avs and the Eagles and now the Grizzlies again. When you have 13 of the 26 ECHL teams playing currently, well, 12, Fort Wayne will join them in February, but when you have half of your league and half of the goaltenders in your league, looking for work, they've either gone over to Europe or they are waiting for their moment like this, like Evan Butenhouse.
Yeah. That's enough of that name. We're done with that name.
Evan. We'll just call him Evan B.
There you go. I like that.
So good on you, Evan B. Welcome to Utah. And yeah, that's going to be the goaltending tree and the goaltending chain from here on out. So real quick, before we ask the feed, we'll just touch on the collegiate part. Like I said, not a whole lot of changing. Denver, they got a win on the 17th over North Dakota, but then they lost 5-1 against the Fighting Hawks in the North Dakota Fighting Hawks. Yeah, on the 18th. So they won 4-1 and then they lost 5-1. So you win one, you lose one. But
right.
Yeah, Denver overall 5-8-1, 6th out of 8 teams in the National Collegiate Hockey Conference. So
yeah, I mean, rough year overall for those guys. Mm-hmm. And, I thought they might have been turning a corner there with that, upsetting number 1 North Dakota in their conference and doing it pretty well. They went up 4-0 and then, let one in late there, but they almost shut them out. And I was like, wow, okay, maybe this is a pep talk from head coach David Carl and they're turning a corner here. And then, next day they blew it. So we'll see. When's the next game? What do we got here? I guess they play Saturday. They play Omaha, 2-game set in Nebraska against Omaha. Okay. So we'll see. Oh, and then we got at Colorado College. This would be a good segue into your next team there.
Yeah. They had a couple games postponed against Colorado College earlier in the month here in January. Yeah. But gosh, speaking of University of Nebraska, Omaha, heartbreaker of a loss. I mean, the Colorado College pushes it to overtime. They get into the final seconds of overtime, and I want to say it was like 0.3 seconds, and Omaha with the game winner, 3-2 victory. Just a crushing blow to an already, just a brutal way to lose a game after you get the point, and it becomes the loser point, which is kind of deflating on a moral level, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's like a double slap in the face.
Yeah. You push it to overtime. All right, let's get the 2 points. Oh shit.
Well, never mind.
It's like, yeah. So that's a 3-2 loss. Also lost to the University of Nebraska Omaha the previous day, 3-2, but in regulation this time. So 3-2 tends to be the bane of Colorado College's, at least that mini series with the University of Nebraska Omaha. 3-9-2 on the year. They are 7th. They're tied for 7th with Miami of Ohio in points. I think Miami actually has more wins, but they both have 14 points in the standings in the National Collegiate Hockey Conference in NCHC. So again, and it's just a rough year for Colorado College.
Yeah.
Colleges, not just Colorado College. We're talking Air Force as well. They're still 0-8-1, last place in the Atlantic Hockey Division for the NCAA. Their next game is January 30th at Bentley. So not really anything much to update there since we covered it last time, and their record hasn't changed, and they're still in last place. So a rough go at it. Let's go into asking the feed so that we can.
That was depressing. We need something else. Let's perk it up a little bit here.
Yeah, let's talk to the people. Let's talk to the fans.
Yeah.
Let's ask the feed. Here we go. Mike Crook at Free Sports Press. No real question, but can you comment on that statement win the Avs had following their season opening loss? I think we did.
I think we covered that. But yeah, I mean, I would just like to say, we had recorded this game or this podcast, episode 1 of this one last week, after the Avs had suffered that, heartbreaking season opening loss. Mm-hmm. And, we're kind of talking about, you saw the people on Twitter, you could hear the whispers in the crowd that this Avalanche team is, they're not legit. They had too much pressure on them, and, tell everyone to calm down. It's one game. They'll turn it around. And, that's what we saw. The next game was like, I mean, what a way to come back from that, 4-1 loss to the Blues in your season opener at your home ice. Then to just score a touchdown and something on them and shut them out and the way that they did. I think that's exactly what it is. You touched on it there. It was a statement win, and that's exactly what they needed. And, hopefully that fuels them to a nice little win streak here. So far it has. We're up 2 in a row. We got another one tonight on Thursday, and we'll see. We'll see them keep rolling, hopefully.
Yeah, and as always, thanks to Mike for always chiming in on the social media, on the Twitters, as it were. So, yeah, thank you for that. The Rink, Colorado, at the Rink, Colorado, good friends with the folks over there. Like I said, appeared on their podcast a couple weeks ago now. Thoughts on Gilbert's first game. Now, looking at Dennis Gilbert's stat line, he was in the Avalanche roster against the Kings. Nothing, a lot of goose eggs, 9 minutes, 54 seconds time on ice, 15 shifts, just kind of a serviceable, seventh D man, it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, for having 7 defensemen play in that game, the fact that he got almost 10 minutes is it's not bad. I mean, if you think if there was like 6, he's probably pulling an extra like 2 to 3 minutes. But I mean, for a guy making, who doesn't have that much NHL experience and, joining a new team and getting called up from the taxi squad and kind of being forced into this, I thought he played pretty well. Coach Bednar, someone asked about it at the end of the game, and he said just as much. He's like, he was impressed with him. He likes the bite he plays with in his game, and he plays physical and he knows what he's doing. And yeah, I think serviceable is probably the best adjective to describe him. It's nothing too flashy, and that's not what they wanted. The whole point is don't let the other team score. And I don't think he did. So I call that a win for Dennis Gilbert.
Yeah, his plus minus was even. I mean, he wasn't on ice for a goal. He wasn't on ice for, or maybe he was.
Even out. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I missed the game against Los Angeles, unfortunately, but obviously he didn't take any penalties, and obviously there's smart penalties and there's stupid penalties. But when you're being deployed as kind of a big body like Dennis Gilbert is, and I say big body, I mean, everyone's a big body to me when I'm 5'5", but like 6'2", 216 pounds. I mean, obviously acquired for the grit and the sandpaper, like we've talked about ad nauseum before. But when you have a guy that's a 7th defenseman and he didn't go full goon status, that's what I'm kind of impressed about. And that's what I'm kind of, like you said, serviceable is a great word for it. It's a great adjective to describe it because he didn't get any penalty minutes. He had almost 10 minutes of ice time, which like you said, it's very impressive. So thoughts on Gilbert's first game with the Avalanche? Very, very serviceable. It is very good word for it.
And we'll see. I mean, now that we have this pattern thing, I was thinking Gilbert would probably stay on the taxi squad for a lot of the season as, that guy who does have experience and who does play the kind of game where he can just step in and play those serviceable 10 to 15 minutes if he needs to. But we'll see. Pattern, probably he's definitely got the NHL experience over him, and he's got the tenure, I guess, over Dennis Gilbert. So we'll see if Pattern sticks with it. He'll probably be the taxi squad guy. And we said it, a few episodes on our last podcast. Dennis Gilbert's gonna be a great addition to Eagles country. I think if he makes it down there, I think he's gonna be great at the AHL level, and he's not afraid to fight. He's gonna be a fun guy to watch, I think.
Right. And in regards to fighting, if you don't have a Dennis Gilbert, you've got a guy like a Liam O'Brien, starting on one of your lines at forward. So at least you have that. So, exactly. But yeah,
better yet, you have both. So
there you go. There you go. All right. Next question. We'll just keep trucking along and we'll finish it up so that Scott can go cover Avs and Kings. Dude, where's McCarr? At Joel, that's packing. Dude, where's McCarr? That's a good meme. It's a good little play on words there. I love it. How good has Sam Girard been early on this season? And what do you think is the biggest difference in his game? Scott McDonald, you have the floor, my good man.
Thank you, Cece.
Yes,
I will say he's impressed me a lot. I mean, he looks like, it's hard to kind of comment and judge these guys because we're only 3 games in. Things change very quickly, but in the first 3 games, I mean, he's been probably my surprise pick. He's always been good, since he joined the Avs in the 17-18 year, but you could kind of see him just over the years getting steadily better. And I think it's all kind of culminating this year. He looks a step faster. He's just so elusive. That's what I love about him. He's a great guy to quarterback a power play. And that's exactly what he's been doing so far. I mean, him and Devon Taves on that second power play unit they've cashed in 2 games in a row now on eerily similar goals, I might add. I think the Avs tweeted it today too. They they put the 2 videos side by side of the 2 goals against St. Louis and then LA on their power play, and it's the same thing. It's, Sammy Girard goes towards the half wall, behind the back pass to awaiting Devon Taves at the point, and then just one timer and Val Nichushkin in front of the net. It's easy. If you guys haven't seen the video on @Avalanche on Twitter, it's a pretty cool video, but that's beside the point. Anyway, to answer the question, yeah, Sam Girard he's looked a step faster this year. He's a fun guy to watch, and I think he just gels well with his team, and I hope he keeps this trend going. I'm excited to see what he's got in store for us this year.
Yeah, and to really, to thrive with 2, not 1, but 2 new teammates on that second power play unit, to have Brandon Saad and Devin Tays rather. Here I am looking at his name. It looks like Taus. I know. Come on, Cece, get it together. Devin Tays, just like John Tays. Yeah, no, okay. Okay. All right, stay focused. But for Sam Girard to have not 1, but 2 new players on that second power play unit, and to gel with them the way that he has, that's what sticks out for me. That's super impressive. And to have Donskoy on there and Comfer, returning from last season. But I mean, to have a successful special teams, especially with as many power play goals that they scored against St. Louis in that 8-0 rout. That's super impressive as well. So anyway, is it Devon or Devon Tays?
It's Devon. Yeah. Devon's it's a common, it's a common, I think, mispronunciation, but it's pronounced Devon. Yeah.
I'm having one of those nights where mispronunciations is the name of the game, apparently.
Especially hockey names, man. There's some crazy hockey names. So, just, the syllables and, certain letters that shouldn't look like they should be next to each other, but they are. And now you have to try to pronounce them, and it's fun. It keeps you on your toes. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's a lot different than football when you've got guys like Clinton Dix and Hollywood Brown.
Exactly.
Those are just unique names. And hockey, you're just I can't pronounce these things.
Okay, yeah.
So
you're looking at the media guy. It's just crazy. Yeah, it's a whole thing. But
exactly, we need to start going to games so we can start getting press packets with the pronunciations in there.
Exactly.
Or just watch more film, apparently, because I guess
I just listen to the announcers of the team that they're on or whatever. Be oh, okay, that's how you pronounce it. Sounds good.
Right. Yep. All right. Next one. We've got a few more questions. Gil Manklang. Mainklang. Damn it, Chad. Damn it, Cece. Come on. Stay focused.
Oh, wow. The wheels are falling off here late in the game. Jeez.
I never have been able to finish games well, whether I'm playing video games or apparently doing podcasts. Let's just get this over with. God. Oh, okay. Gil Mainklang. Thank you, Scott. You are my rock right now.
I got you.
At Gil_Mainklang. The Ian Cole departure has my heart reeling. One of my favorite recent Avs. Talk about your top 3 defensemen on the Avs and their role on the team.
Yeah, I would say to your first point, Gil, I'm going to miss him too. Just as a media member, getting to talk to him, he just has fun with everyone. He pokes fun at all the media guys. He's roasted me a couple of times, and he's just a good guy to have, and you could tell he's just a good guy to have in the locker room too. And people asked him after that game about it, and I think Nathan McKinnon said something, Bednar said something about it, and they're all just we're going to miss Colsey. He's a fun guy to keep around, and I think for that, I'll miss him, but I don't necessarily miss his on ice performance. But as a person, I'm gonna miss him. So my heart's reeling too, Gil. But top 3 defensemen on the Avs. I mean, I think it's pretty easy. I mean, you got Cale Makar up top. That one's easy. I'm going Devon Taves, and I'm going Sam Girard. At least right now, that's where we're at. Devon Taves has really, really stuck out. So I want to talk about that a little bit earlier, but I missed my cue. But Devon Taves,
talk about it now. Do it.
Yeah, he's thoroughly been impressing me. I mean, he pulled on Tuesday night against the Kings a team high 26 minutes, a team high 6 shots or block shots. Obviously, had that power play goal. He is, by the way, he's only had 2 shots on goal as an Avs member, and he scored on both of them.
Oh,
that's kind of cool. He's the only NHL defenseman right now to have a 100% conversion rate on his shot so far, but obviously that's not a sustainable thing, but still just a fun little side note. But yeah, I mean, he's leading through 3 games. Like, you would think, Cale Makar is your leader, and you got Sam Girard on there too. And it's Devon Taves who's leading in average ice time. He's leading in block shots as well throughout the season. He scored a quarter of the team's power play goals. I mean, I'm just 3 games in. I know it's early, but I wrote a column about it a couple of days ago, and I said I know it's early, but I think he's the real deal. So he's thoroughly been impressing me. He's a rock on that top line. He's perfect next to Cale Makar, and he's just defensively responsible, but also just makes the right play every time. He takes that shot when he has to take the shot. He makes the pass when he should make the pass, and he keeps goals out of his net. So I mean, that's all you can ask out of a defenseman. So 3 games in, very impressed with him. And we touched on it a couple minutes ago with Sam Girard. I think we said enough about him, but he's kicked it up a notch, and he's my top 3 too.
And I would chime in, but we've got a few more questions and we're running out of time. So we'll keep moving on. Yeah, I mean, you did pretty good justice there. I mean, I would include Makar in there, but again, I'm not going to elaborate. Next question. We have got a very hard-hitting analytical question here from Ominous B at Ominous_B on the Twitters. Who is the sexiest Av?
I think it's easy. It's Gabe Landeskog.
Gabe Landeskog. Exactly what I was going to say.
Yes. I mean, come on now. He's a sexy man. It's objectively an attractive male.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's GQ. I mean, there's something about those Swedes, man. I mean, Henrik Lundqvist has been probably one, if not the sexiest man in the NHL for a long time.
Wasn't he named like GQ sexiest man, or he was on the cover of GQ?
He's been on the cover of GQ for crying out loud.
As he should be. So, I mean, again, very, very attractive man. But yeah, it's an easy one. I don't even know if there's not even a close second. I don't think.
Mm-mm. No, it's Gabe by a mile.
It's
Next
Gabe,
question.
and that's it.
For sure. Kyle at the Prospect Nerd, good devoted follower of Scott and I, not making him sound like a cult member there. Sorry about that, Kyle. But he follows us on Twitter. He chimes in a lot. He said, the Avs still have a great group of forwards, but the defense has been depleted because of the taxi squad and not finding a placement for Connaughton, who signed with the Florida Panthers organization, or at least he signed a tryout. Goalie has taken a hit as well. Obviously, they shore that up today. How competitive can we be, we being the Avalanche, because of this, and the Eagles? I assume most other teams are facing the same problems, but I don't know. Scott, if I may.
Please, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, kind sir. So, Kyle, yes, there is a lot of this going on in the AHL and the NHL, and the fact that, you have a limited number of bodies, and that's why the Eagles signed those 3 forwards and the 1 goaltender when they did, to give them an amateur tryout, to make sure that they can field the best roster, both at the AHL level. And I mean, obviously they're going to field it at the NHL level as well. They made that Ian Cole trade. They're pulling the trigger on Bowen Byram. Kyle, I would say, fear not, fraught not. Or fret not, rather, fraught not.
I almost like that better.
Fraught not, yes.
Fraught
it's that sounds like a dessert dish. Like
it does, actually. I was thinking the same thing.
Would you like to try a fraught not? Well, sure.
Why not?
Oh,
all right.
That's good that we can still have fun. All right. Anyway, so we're back to being serious. Okay, Kyle, but yes, I would not fear, I would not fret, because just because Connaughton has flown the coop, as it were, and it hasn't re-signed with Colorado, didn't re-sign with Colorado, it's not the end of the world. I think the Avalanche and the Eagles are probably handling this the best that they can, and the Avs obviously are reaping the benefits of having being spoiled for riches in spite of a taxi squad and things like that. So Kyle, I'd say what we did last time when the Avs lost that first game, and in the sage advice of Aaron Rodgers, RELAX, relax. Yes. So yeah. Last but not least, let's go to the final question. Matthew Villeneuve.
Oh, wow. I'm glad you tried that one, because there's no way. At Unpucky Guy.
At Unpucky Guy. There we go.
That's easier.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Forgive me, Matthew. My French is horrendous. not a very good thing to boast about when you're covering the game like hockey with a lot of French Canadian guys.
Right.
I digress. With the expansion draft coming up, which direction does the team go? Who is the most expendable? Jost? We've kind of covered this like every episode, I feel like.
Yeah, so we'll recap, all the things we've said over the last few months, I guess. My pick is, I think it's always kind of been like Tyson Jost, but he's a guy we talked about in episode 1 who stuck out to me and he's impressed me, and he's told us that he's kind of realized that he's taken steps back each of these years, and he's happy that the Avs are giving him a chance after chance and signing him to these 1-year deals. So I don't know, if he keeps playing the way he's been playing these first few games, I think, maybe it makes him a little more of an attractive option to stick with the team. But yeah, I've heard Tyson Jost's name thrown around. I've heard Ryan Graves' name thrown around. I think there's that possibility out there that the Avs ask, veteran defenseman Eric Johnson to waive his no-trade clause and maybe pay Seattle some money to take him, which we saw a couple teams do for Vegas when they expanded a couple years ago. So we'll see. I mean, there's options out there, but I would say the most likely it's Tyson Jost, JT Compher, Ryan Graves, maybe long shot would be Eric Johnson.
Yeah. If the Avs can get him to basically say, all right, yeah, I'd be willing to be exposed for the Kraken expansion draft, then that could be a feasible option as well, for sure. Yeah. But Scott, thank you for elaborating on that for the umpteenth time for us.
Can't wait until inevitably next week we're gonna get another question about it.
Oh, for sure. You know what? And somebody's just gonna be yeah, you know what? Someone's going to be out there and going to be a rebel rouser and just, just to kind of I think it's going to probably be a tradition as we go on. It's just going to be like, hey, what about the expansion draft? Hey, what about the expansion draft?
See, I hope that becomes a thing. Like the DNVR Avalanche podcast, they have like a running joke with their guys where everyone, AJ Hafley, who's one of the hosts of DNVR Avs, he always gets the question about is Martin Kaut like expansion draft eligible or is he protected? Which, like, obviously he's not. He can't be exposed because he's a first or second year player. So it's like a big running joke they have on their podcast, and you see he quote tweets it all the time on his Twitter account. And I hope we make it to that point where we have a following that listens and likes to joke around with us. I think it's fun. So
I think with as many questions as we already get, like it's nice to see, a fan base developing, as it were. And so, the fact that, you're writing for Colorado Hockey Now, this is kind of segueing into the outro as we're finished asking the feed. So, with you writing for Colorado Hockey Now and me writing for Full Press Hockey, these are websites that have a lot going for them. I mean, obviously with Adrian Dater covering the Avalanche since the beginning, since 95 for the Denver Post and otherwise. And, me with Full Press Hockey with all of the, Pro Hockey Writing Association credentialed guys and otherwise just a great team of writers, whether they're credentialed or not. They're members of that association. It's a real, there's a lot of potential here, and I'm really excited with the rebrand and the reboot through Full Press coverage and Full Press Hockey for Front Range Hockey. So, that's a pretty good wrap for the show and everything. Scott, did you have anything else to add before we call it a night?
Probably just the usual. I mean, find me at offscottfree on Twitter. If you guys have been listening the whole time, we already kind of talked about that. 0FF Scott Free. I'm there all the time. DM's open. Love talking hockey. You can find my work pretty much on a daily basis at coloradohockeynet.com, working alongside, like CC said, Adrian Dater, the great Adrian Dater. And we'll be there. We'll be here all season, covering every single game, every minute of it. So join us.
There you go. Join us. Yes. Colorado Hockey Now. Definitely worth the membership. Go check that out. And this is Front Range Hockey. As you know, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to follow our show on pretty well any major podcast platform, Google, Apple, Stitcher, and please give our Twitter account a follow as you see our handle scrolling below at Front RNG Hockey. And my name is CC Hockley. You can find my written work at Full Press Hockey. That's www.fullpresshockey.com. You can call me Hockey Hockley if you want to try your best to do a tongue twister there. But I know, right? Okay, yeah, I'm going to finish strong there.
That was a lot. That was a lot. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Scott.
I just realized Full Press Hockey and CC Hockley, like same syllables. It almost sounds the same. I just made that connection. That's why I like probably making a weird face. Like that just blew my mind a little bit.
I love it around. Yeah, anybody I tell that I cover hockey, they're like, Hockey Hockley. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. It rhymes. It rolls off the tongue. So anyway, check this out and a ton of other great hockey podcasts, plus other great sports pods on the Full Press Radio Network at www.fullpresscoverage.com. Thank you guys and gals and non-binary pals once again for listening. And stay colorful, my friend.
See you guys.
Yeah.